Hello, and welcome to Conversations Worth Your Wow. It's the show where I dig into big ideas with a fabulous guest. And these ideas will help you to unleash what you were born to bring. And my guests are heart-led experts, and we are asking the questions that I know you're already thinking about. And we are exploring conversations that are meant to spark your growth, to shift your perspectives, and to help you show up fully in life and at work and for your family and everywhere. And today, our topic is Lead Like Yourself, the power of human design in leadership. And this conversation is worth your while because if you are honest with yourself, you'll find that you are leading based on expectations, not based on who you truly are. And right now, the world needs women leading in alignment with who they are and how they're designed. And when you understand your design, you can start leading from it. And then you'll not only impact your own life in all sorts of beautiful, positive ways, you will create a ripple effect that goes far beyond you. I'm your host, Linda Bucher. And if the life you are living no longer fits, this space is for you. Because through this podcast and through coaching, I guide you to shed what no longer fits, to reconnect with your gifts, and to bring your life into alignment with who you are and what you want. And the best part about that is because once you get there, then the ripples you will make will be incredible because you are here and you were born to bring something. And in order to get to that, you got to get yourself into alignment. And so if that sparks something within you, you can find me at lindabucher.com. All right, once again, our topic is Lead Like Yourself, the power of human design in leadership. And today I have the pleasure of being joined by Joanne Panarisi-Bottone of Lead by Design. And she's making some ripples in her very unique way. Joanne helps women over 40 to reconnect with themselves through the use of human design in service of leadership for themselves, their families, and their companies. So, hey, Joanne, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Linda. I am thrilled to be here with you.
Well, I am thrilled that you are here. Can you just tell us a little bit more about what you do and who you serve? You know, how you're making your big, beautiful ripples in the world.
Yes. So I'm an executive coach. I'm a certified executive coach and human design leadership coach. And I work with women 40 and above to help all women that are interested in this to really get back into alignment with who they are. Because most of us have experienced that feeling of being exhausted, sometimes feeling invisible, not really knowing where to go or what to do, and that's that misalignment. So there's a lot to it, but that's what I'm here to do, and I'm loving it.
I know, I love it too. It's so interesting. When people come to a coach, the very first thing we're really all doing is helping them to know themselves. Why?
Yes,
Because you're moving in life not as yourself, and it's feeling yucky. And I remember myself. I was 45 years old before I asked for the very first time. Asked myself, "Who am I, and what do I want?" And I
yes.
didn't know the answer. I was like, "I don't know. Is that bad? I don't know. Should I know? I think I should know. I don't know." So, yeah,
It's so true, and so many of us feel that way and have experienced that.
yeah. And we are leaders. So let's start there. Okay.
Yeah,
All women are leaders. We are leaders of our own life, whether we feel like we are or not. We are. We are leaders. We can be leaders in our family. We can be leaders in our friend group. We can be leaders in our community. We can be leaders at work. Um, and so we all are leaders. However, how we've been conditioned culturally and societal expectations, we might be leading in a way that doesn't feel exactly right. Isn't that correct?
yes. The conditioning is big for all people, right? But for women in particular, we've been conditioned in our world to always go after proving ourselves and people pleasing and all of that stuff that kind of exhausts us. And we do that because the world has really been built on the way men lead. And we really need both. And I've always been I've had a strong conviction around that. We need both men and women and male and female energy to lead in ways that moves not only ourselves but our families forward and our companies. But we've been conditioned to lead in a male type of way, and that's not who we are.
Right. Yes, exactly. Okay. So we all are leaders. So now we've been conditioned,
Hmm.
and as you and I as coaches are helping people to understand who you are and what you want. And one of the first things we've got to start with is who I'm not. Right?
Yeah.
Our
Yes.
teenagers are really good at doing that when they're transforming, because we go through so many transformations in our lives, and our teenagers are like, I'm not like you. Like they are very good at knowing who they're not.
Yes.
But they're trying on who am I, and they're trying it on by emulating other people. And then, as we grow older and we are like, we might still be trying to fit in certain ways in certain
Hmm.
aspects of our lives. And I remember um, Brene Brown says,
Hmm.
it'll come to me. Um, Fitting in requires you to change who you are, whereas belonging requires that you don't.
Yes. I remember that quote. Yes, I love it.
I love that quote. And so we want to be where we feel like we belong. And the only way to know where you
Hmm.
belong is to know who you are,
Hmm.
right? Because otherwise you're just trying to fit in. Like you're like, no wonder you're feeling like an imposter. You're not being
Right.
you. You're trying to wear someone else's skin. That could be a little gross, right?
Right. And it's exhausting.
It's so exhausting. Yeah. Okay. So in our title, we're talking about leading by design. So let's
Hmm.
talk about design. So here is the big giant aha. There we each come with a blueprint.
Yes, we do.
Like, woo! That is like such good news. Um, I remember when I discovered my blueprint in human
Hmm.
design, I was first so like amazed at how perfectly it described me. It wasn't like some horoscope in a magazine. Like, well, that could describe anybody,
Right.
And I'm not saying horoscopes are incorrect, but you know,
Right.
they can be a little one size fits all sometimes, some of whatever's going in the magazine. But like it felt like home, it felt like truth.
I love that. It felt like home, and that's exactly how I felt. Actually got the chills when you said that, Linda, because that's exactly how I felt when I discovered human design. Because I've always been into personality tests and coaching and leadership and all of that. And I always knew that there was another tool out there that helped us to really understand ourselves better. The name of my business is Intrinsic Wisdom Coaching, right? So I've always known that we've had our own intrinsic wisdom. And the other tools that I was certified in were good. They were good, they were helpful. But when I found human design, that fit like a glove with my intrinsic wisdom name for my coaching business.
Yeah.
Because the thing with human design is that it's really built our blueprint, our map, right, based on our birth data, which some people listening might be like, "What?" Right? That sounds a little weird, and it might sound that way to people, yet it's also incredible because if you think about it, when we take those personality tests, and I've taken many of them and have shared many of them in leadership roles with my teams, right? But those personality assessments and tests ask us questions and we answer them from our mind. And it comes from our mind based on our own experiences in life and how I'm going to go back to how we've been conditioned, right? How we've been conditioned to think about ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, the negative self beliefs, the positive self beliefs, all of that. And I've always wondered about that. Like, well, am I really answering this in a way that other people see me? And that comes from our mind, and human design comes from our actual birth data. And that's the blueprint. That's the map that we enter this earth with. So if it sounds a little woo-woo, I really caution people to just take a breath. I don't even want to say caution people. I want to say invite people to take a breath and just let that settle, because it's pretty incredible.
It is hugely incredible. I too will assign clients to take assessments.
Mhm.
The beauty of the assessments is that when you recognize who you naturally are, you give yourself permission to stop believing you're supposed to be otherwise.
Exactly.
So like on the Colby Index, when I first took that
Yep.
16 years ago, I'm like, I'm a quick start. Quick start's on the other side of the spectrum from the fact finder people, I think.
Right.
And so like, I don't want to go do the research. Oh my gosh, that just is, and I can research. I know how to research. I can research well, but it's not fun. What's
Yeah.
fun is like, let's experiment. Let's try it out. Let's see, right? So when
Yep.
I recognize that it's one spectrum, I can't be in two places on it. What's natural for me is to be a quick start, which means I need my cognitive complement as an assistant to do the research. And as soon as I gave
Hmm.
myself permission to not have to be the research person, right? Then
Yes.
then everything got better. And I've done a good job with a lot of that, like I've been a coach 17 years and in my business, done a good job with like saying, no, that doesn't fit me. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good. So going by feel, my husband's always,
Yes.
you always say go by feel. Like that's how I move through life. I go by feel. However, when I discovered human design, so many things changed.
Mm.
So before I share my story in that, because I want to give you a chance to talk a little bit more, um, can you give a little explanation for people who are like, okay, what does human design mean? Like let's just define it, give them a little glimpse.
Yeah. So human design is it's based on some ancient traditions that have been brought together. Not to go too deeply into it, but Ra Aruhu, this gentleman from back in the 1980s, was the founder of human design. So there's ancient traditions that he brought together in a modern way that really combines everything that creates your blueprint, as we're talking about, right? And what it does is it really helps to identify who you're here to be. And I'm going to say capital B, capital E, rather than what you're here to do.
Mm,
And it really taps into things like, and people who are listening to this may have seen human design before, might just be hearing about it now, maybe had a chart done or a reading done or something like that. But I encourage people to go deeper than that, right? So you might also have already heard about like type, profile, authority. Those are different areas within human design that really, once you start reading about it, but also, well, when I coach people, like getting some coaching around it, it really starts to open up all of those. I keep going back to conditioning points, because when we're conditioned, we tend to tighten up, we tend to forget who we are, we tend to keep trying to move forward in a way where we're trying to prove ourselves. And when we start learning about our type and our profile, for example, you start loosening up. And it's like an opening and a letting go. And you've spoken to that in different ways in your own experience, right? It's about aligning with who you are in that more natural way. And there's a flow of energy and excitement and a deep breath, really. Um,
yeah.
so there's many different ways to get into human design, but those foundational pieces have a profound impact. I go even deeper with what's called, the core four, but it- starting out, type and profile are huge.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to share my experience so that our audience can understand like what is an experience when you're not an expert and you're just like something you're learning about your human design.
Yeah, great.
So I put in my birth data and I discovered that I am a projector. So, and it came with all this other data beyond that. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just start with that. What does a projector mean? And
Yes. And
uh,
that's your type.
that's my type. Exactly.
Yes.
That's my type. So I'm you can say what it is, define because you're going to define it better than I am, but it felt like truth. And then I'll tell you why. So go ahead and define what a projector is because I know you're a projector as well, right?
I am a projector as well.
Yeah.
So as projectors, we're 20% of the population, the whole population, and we're here to guide. We're here to guide and lead ourselves and others, right, from a place of being able to see what other people can't naturally see. So we're good with working with people one-on-one in groups. We're good at naturally good at seeing systems that maybe aren't working right. So if you work in a company or an organization, we're able to zero in pretty quickly on where the gaps are, what could be improved, and be more efficient about it. So from a leadership standpoint, we are here to lead and guide. We're not here to be the doers, the builders.
Yeah. Okay. So I got to jump in right there because I spent so much of my life trying to be the doer, doer, doer. And
Yeah,
then because the projector does not have consistent access to her energy,
that's right.
I would burn out. Like, and all of a sudden something I loved would just feel like, "Ugh." And then I would do almost nothing for like a week, two,
Yes.
3 weeks. And I
Yep.
wasn't depressed. I wasn't in a bad mood. It's just like, nah, I just can't get myself to do that anymore. And
Yep.
and I and when I discovered my human design about 2 years ago, I'm like, no wonder I'm not supposed to be the doer of the work,
Yes.
to be the doers. And then I read a little bit more about how, well, first of all, I'm already living my projectorness, and I have been. I am a guide.
Hmm.
I have been guiding and leading clients for 17 years as a life coach.
Hmm.
I find I absolutely see what they don't see. And then I look back at my previous life as a project manager, where I was the liaison between the business and the IT people. And I could see what they couldn't see. I could see how it all come together. Like, oh, this is natural to me. So that was super eye-opening. And it was so nice to let go of the expectation I put on myself that I have to be a doer. Like, phew.
Yes. Well, you learned that you were supposed to be a doer because 70% of the population are doers. They're builders, right?
Yeah,
That's part of the conditioning.
yeah.
So that's what the expectation is, that we're all doers, but we're not.
No, we are not. And then I learned that projectors are here to be guides for the doers. And when
Yes.
I look back at 17 years of clients, every single one has been a doer. They've all either been generators or manifesting generators. It's
Yes.
pretty incredible to look back and say, no, this is who's attracted to me. The doers
Yeah.
are attracted to the projectors as guides.
Mhm.
So like, all right, awesome. Okay. So then I just started with that. Like, what's my type? Okay.
Yes.
Then the next thing was interesting to me was something called the authority, my authority.
Mm.
Mine
Mm.
is self-projected authority, I believe.
Self-projected projector.
Project, yes,
Yeah.
self-projected projector. So right, obviously projecting. So can you just share a little bit about like what an authority is and what like that tells us?
Yeah, our inner authority is about, and I'm going to try not to get into the actual design because there's so many different layers to this. But to your question, the inner authority is really how we make decisions rather than making decisions based on how we were taught, right? We were taught to make all of our decisions from our mind. Our mind knows everything, and our mind is important, don't get me wrong. But we haven't been taught to listen to our body, our soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, right? That energy inside of us. So the self-projected projector is typically someone who also has to speak things out loud in order to get to their own decisions. So I'm a splenic projector, so that's different, right? So I have an quick intuitive hits that I need to listen to in the moment because they come and they go quickly. There's other people who have an inner authority that's emotional, and they need to ride an emotional wave before they give a yes or no to something. So there's many different areas or many different ways of people making decisions, but we haven't been taught that, right? And we're all unique. And
Right.
there's different authorities that different types and people have.
Yeah, absolutely. And so being a self-projected projector, I'm perfect to be a podcast host.
Yeah. Yes.
And coaching can be, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know why I just said that, but that was pretty genius. I should write that down. And then, of course, I'm supposed to learn from what I say as well. That's part of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Then you also talked about profile. So that's just the third thing. And then I did not go any deeper than that. And I'm going to leave whatever beyond profile to the experts like you for sure. But let's talk a little bit about profile because we're kind of talking around these things we're going to need for leadership. And then we're going to bring it back to leadership after this.
Mhm.
All right. So my profile is 4-6. And
Yes.
so we got these numbers. Okay. So tell us what a
Right.
profile is in general.
So profile gives you a sense of how you're here to be in the world and operate. Well, your whole design does, right? But the profile really speaks to your, I'm going to call it the outer costume. And it's not fake. I don't mean it in that way, but what you're projecting out into the world and how people are seeing you and experiencing you. So when you're in alignment with your 4-6, for you, the 4 is that natural kind of networker. You engage with people, connect. The 6 is more of the, as you go through the different decades, you become more of the role model expert, right? So that combination right there is you networking, connecting with people, speaking, doing all the good stuff that you do. And that 6, as you, like I said, go through your decades, you become more, you master it more and more. And so it goes deeper and deeper for you. And I've heard you say that without you saying it, right? I've heard you say that in your story and in your life and your experiences. So
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So now, when you know a couple of these things like this, now you can begin to become aware. Oh, the one other thing I want to bring up is the not self. Can you talk a little bit about the not self? Because I'm gonna talk about that in my experience of it. So people,
yes.
oh, yeah, talk about that.
Yeah. And the not self is one of those, I want to say, simple yet profound things that when you start learning about your human design, for many people, especially projectors and reflectors, make us pause and go, okay, I get it. And it's true for all 5 of the types, right? But so the not self is when we're not in alignment. And when we're not in alignment, we're not in our best space. We're not in our happiest. We're not in our biggest flow. We're not energetically in a place where people are really getting drawn to us because it's heavy, right? I mean, we know when we're in a bad mood or life is hard, right? Our energy is heavier. And when we're in that for a long time, there's that not self that could be showing up. So the not self, I'm just going to name them all. So there's 5 types. So if you're a manifester, if you've done your design, anger is the not self, right? So if you notice a lot of anger, that's the not self coming up. Generators, it's frustration. Manifesting generators, you guys get the frustration and the anger when you're not in alignment, when you're not truly living your design and leading through your design. Projectors, there's a bitterness for us. Why? Because oftentimes we don't feel seen and heard and recognized because why we're supposed to be invited in. And sometimes our what we're able to see so clearly can be penetrating to others because they don't see it. And so it's a tricky one in the sense of people aren't always thrilled with when we share what we can see so easily. Hopefully that makes sense. So bitterness can come up if we're not feeling recognized or seen. Reflectors are 1% of the population, and for them, it's disappointment, right? So reflectors are very rare. And so for them, it's disappointment. So I think what I want to say about that for all 5 is this isn't something to fix necessarily, right? We always want to fix things. Just notice this as a signal.
Mhm. Yeah. It's
Yeah, go
it's one of
ahead.
the great signals. So once I discovered that, okay, being a projector, it's bitterness, I thought back about all the times I felt bitter. Like I would take on a
Yeah.
big project, I'd be super excited or be like, I remember I was asked to be on the executive board of a
Mhm.
beautiful group of for women. And I really loved doing it at first. And then at some point I started feeling bitter about it. And I stayed longer through that bitterness because I didn't understand what it was. And I thought, what's your problem, Linda? Because like, as a life coach, I got every tool I can certainly move through any amount of baloney in my head. Like
Yeah.
I
Yes.
naturally do that. Like I'm conditioned myself to do that. So I didn't understand where the bitterness was coming from. I thought it was like a thought that I had to resolve. Do your thought work, do your Byron Katie work, do your whatever.
Right.
Like, and it wasn't. And I did just resign and give that part up because
Hmm.
something was out of alignment. And it was probably that I wasn't really feeling seen. Um,
Yeah.
right. And so now
Yep.
that I recognize what happens, every time I catch myself feeling bitter, I don't ask myself what's wrong with my thinking. I ask
Yes.
myself, where am I out of alignment with who I truly am? Where am I not being true to me?
Yes.
Honoring what's right for me. And sometimes the bitterness comes from, oh boy, I tried to slip back into being a doer again.
Yep.
That's not, it all comes
Exactly.
from that. And so the most beautiful thing has happened in the past year, and only because of my human design and my limited understanding of it, but it feels like so much truth to me. In the past year, I have given myself permission in my coaching and speaking business
Hmm.
to only go by what feels right. And as soon as something feels like a should or a have to or a bitterness or whatever, to like say no and not do it. So it's an experiment. And
Yes.
I love the result of the experiment. So, since the beginning of this year, or actually probably I started this in the fall, I was just like, I'm just doing my podcast. It's not monetized, it's not whatever, but it feels so natural and in alignment with me as a projector.
Yes.
My 4-6, I build my relationships with all my podcast guests. Um,
Hmm.
I'm a teacher at heart for sure. I always say that's that 6th part, right?
Yes. Yep.
I'm ready. People have come to me as like they know a lot of coaches, but they want to work with me because you're the only one who actually looks like she's as happy as she said as you say you can be through coaching. Just like the other ones are saying all the good stuff, but I'm like now thinking, but you're walking your talk. That's that role model, you know.
Yes.
And
Yep.
so I'm like, why don't I just trust it? It's an experiment. I'm gonna trust it and see where it goes. And what is on the other side when I am being myself, if bitterness is one side, it's not satisfaction, it's success, right?
Oh, yes.
It
Yes. I see what you're asking. Yes.
what is that called? Your
I can't remember the technical term, but you're in alignment
in
basically. So
alignment.
when you're not feeling bitter, that really moves you into success so that you're
Basically,
not blocking,
yes,
right? That bitterness and that out of alignment isn't blocking you from your natural abilities and drawing people to you, drawing business to you, whatever it might be, relationships, leadership, all of it.
right.
Yeah. So that's success.
We are well-being is always moving to us and through us. And if we're not feeling it, it's because we're blocking it. We're blocking
Yes.
maybe being our not self. So one of the
Yes.
ways to start to become your true self is to discover your human design. Get your blueprint, everybody. Get your blueprint.
Exactly.
Let's bring it home to leadership now.
Okay.
Okay. So once you know your human design and you're like, oh my God, this is so true. This is so me. I'm understanding these like maybe at the surface level, like I do, but maybe working with someone like you who like gets the very depth of it and can marry it also with some coaching. Um, let's talk about the impact on leadership. So I'm turning it over to you for that.
Yes. So again, you've mentioned it before, but we're talking about leadership of self, of our families, of companies, whatever it might be, right? It's all tied together. It's all about leadership and the impact of really discovering, and I like to call it rediscovering because again, it's our own internal inner intrinsic wisdom that
Mhm.
we've had. Um, the impact really has a ripple effect because it's all energy. So if we show up in our bitterness and our not self, that's not helping us in leadership of any sort, right? When we show up in alignment, we are actually able to step into who we're here to be. And again, the capital B, capital E, and then draw people towards us in a way where we have influence. And I don't mean manipulation, that kind of influence. I mean, where are we going in this leadership? Where are we going in our family? How do we communicate? It really opens up all of that. And it decreases exhaustion, it decreases burnout, it decreases all the not selves. The impact is incredible. And the thing is, it helps us to understand not only ourselves, but other people as well. And that is huge because if if and when we all start really aligning with who we are, it really has a much broader impact on, and I'm going to say on the world.
I was just going to bring that up because I
Yeah.
mentioned when I said why this conversation is worth anyone's while, is that, the world's very different than it had been. And I know it's all
Yes.
changing a little, but this is really, really a big change. And there is a giant transformation that's happening in the world. And you mentioned very early on that we have a lot of masculine energy in the world, and
Yes.
we need a yin and a yang, right? So
Yes.
we need to have the more feminine energy come and be in balance. We want to be in balance. So
Yes.
with the world changing the way it is changing, there is a transformation happening right now.
Yes.
And so the world needs more women leading, but leading in alignment with who they are and how they're designed.
That's
Not
right.
just leading in this masculine way that we were taught. I went to business school, I have an MBA, I was taught to lead in a certain way. And then,
Yeah,
right? So it
exactly.
wasn't the most natural way. So this is the time the world really needs women to come back to who they're designed, to their own natural design, and then step out of fear of living that, because
Yes.
there's no reason to be afraid. I know a lot of times when I'm working with people about, like, one of the very, very first steps is, who am I and what do I want now?
Yes.
And people are nervous about that because they're like, well, what if I don't like who I find? And I'm like, I guarantee you're gonna love who you find. Well, what if
Yes.
my loved ones don't like who I find? Because I've always been a yes girl, or a people pleaser, or
Mm-mm.
in service all the time. And what if I find the person I find doesn't want to do that anymore? And then those people don't like me or love me anymore. Well, I guarantee you, people really will love the natural who of you. You can only show up your best self for those other people when you're in true alignment with who you are. And
Yes.
it is not selfish. It's the best way to be of service and in leadership to those around you, your family, your loved ones, your community, your business, wherever you
Yes.
are. Yeah.
It's so true. That's exactly it. And going back to what you were saying before, and you and I were talking earlier, but it's that the way I'm working with women as well around this is it's about reclaiming the leadership you were designed for, because the world is waiting for us as women to step into our natural leadership, right? Through that collaboration, the co-creation, our intuition, that heart-centeredness, and bringing it together with the male energy. And because of this huge transformation that we're going through as a world, this is our time to really step into that, to make a huge difference. And to your point, that fear holds us back often, and we've been conditioned not to step forward. I'm not saying that we never do and women don't, yet we don't always show up as our full selves because of those layers of conditioning. That's what I get so excited about. I've always had a strong conviction around female leadership, and I've always known that there's a deeper way to transform. And I'm working with clients with human design because it's the fastest way to transformation. And I'm speaking from my own truth, my own experience as a human being and as a leader and as a coach.
Yeah. And when people are like, a lot of times, a lot of people come to me because they're like, I want to find my wow. I want to know what's next.
Yes.
I want to discover that. And so I'm like, well, you can't find the what of what that is until you find the who of you. So,
Mhm.
we've got,
Yeah.
because when you wrap what you're doing and how you're doing it around who you are, success and happiness will meet you there. And who you are is the center. It's like the so important.
Yes.
And when I discovered my human design, it was the last missing piece because I had done so much of my own work as
Hmm.
you walk your talk if your coach worth her while.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I understand that's a bunch of baloney, let's work through that. You work for
Uh-huh.
yourself,
Yeah.
see life differently, you live life differently, you learn. I learned a tool early in coaching, very early in coaching. I learned about my essential self versus my social
Mhm.
self, and how they need to be also in balance, and how when we're
Yes.
children, our social self rules the roost. That our social self, she's the one who just lays down in the grass and looks up the clouds, or just, go by total feel and playful and attraction based. But then we're taught from our parents and then through schooling systems and
Hmm.
into adulthood and culturally and societally to be ruled by our social self. And our social self is, instead of being attraction based, it's opposite. It's like, how will I not be excluded? I don't want to be
Yes.
excluded. So and that's like our race car. And so we're like, we got to go this way, we got to do it that way, we got to, and we're learning how
Hmm.
to do things, and we're trying to, like, use your head, we're told, use your head.
Yes. Yep.
However, that essential self doesn't come from your head. Your essential self is something deeper, and it's not about use your head. And that's your GPS. And if you're not using your GPS, you got a race car and you're racing around aimlessly. And when people come to me and they're like, I don't know what to be when I grow up, even though I'm 45 years old,
Uh-huh.
like, well, we got to rehook you up with your GPS because your GPS knows where to go. That's where the dust that knows the pathway. It knows I don't want to say destination because it's not fixed, but it knows
Yeah.
your true journey of what you came on this earth to be doing. So we got to
Yes.
get back in touch with that. And then we'll just use your race car to get there when you
Right.
discover how to go. But you've been just, driving around, driving your Ferrari around aimlessly. No wonder you don't feel aligned, because you're not using that part of you. And it's
Exactly.
I've learned a lot, but then human design brought it all together. It was the
Hmm.
piece for me. And I'm so grateful that I discovered what it is, because it's, again, I can check in and give myself permission to not be who I'm not, to recognize when I'm in my not self,
Yes.
and to lead from what feels true and right for me, and to learn for myself as a projector and what comes out of my mouth. um, and to recognize that, especially as a business owner, you go on the internet, it's all telling you how to do business, how to grow your coaching business, and every time I've tried that, I've ended up in a bitterness, or don't make me do
Yes.
it, I don't want to, because it doesn't fit me. And I didn't know why until I learned that projectors are supposed to wait for the invitation, not fly banners across the sky and say, hire
Right.
me. Like, oh, no wonder.
Yes.
So it just put everything into perspective. So I'm so grateful that I got to discover my human design. And I'm a lifelong learner, and I'm just going to keep on diving into that little by little, also helping me to understand other people. Um,
Yes.
and it's just a beautiful thing. And I'm so excited that you are here today. So let's just start with one tiny thing. Like, I always like to leave the listener with something small they can do, because I know you're like, oh, great podcast, let's go on to the next podcast. Hopefully it'll be another episode of Conversations Worth Your While. But before you hit play on the next podcast, what's one small thing, Joanne, that you would say could be done by a listener before they hit play on the next podcast?
Yeah. And it really is about pausing, to your point. Really, that's what you're saying. Like, let's pause and just notice how you make decisions. And is it out of fear? Is it out of anxiety? Is it out of the shoulds? Or is it from a deeper knowing and like a feeling? Like, so there's the difference. Like, we often make decisions out of fear, anxiety, the shoulds, rather than what feels right. And you've talked a lot about how you have aligned with how you feel, and that guides you. That is one of the simplest things that you can start doing.
Yeah, it really is. And so what's so beautiful about that, Joanne, is you don't have to know what your destination is to be able to do that right now.
That's right. That's right.
Start with something really small, like what am
Yeah.
I making for dinner? What,
Yeah.
oh, I should have a protein. I should do this. I should do that.
All the shoulds.
I really feel like, like putting into my body, or what do I feel? Do I have the energy to make that dinner that said I was going to make? Like, what if I were
Exactly.
to honor myself? So we can just do a little litmus test on simple things. Because when you recognize over experimentation that when you
Mhm.
trust that alignment, that it's never wrong, then you can use it to trust the big decisions in your life.
Exactly.
Start out with little things. So that's beautiful. Thank you, Joanne. This has been such a great conversation. I really appreciate you being a guest on Conversations with Your Wild.
It's been my pleasure. This has been great. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you for shedding light for the listeners and for me personally. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Do you have anything you'd like to share with our audience? Like if someone's like, wait a minute, I want to know my human design and what that looks like. And, like, so what can they do? And what,
Yeah, one of the simplest things you can do if you want to know more about human design, um, I actually on my website, so that's intrinsicwisdomcoaching.com, there is a leadership audit. It's a free leadership audit where you jump on, you answer a few questions, it brings you through a simple process and asks you for some information around your birth date and all of that. And then you can set up an appointment with me. It's a 45-minute call where I'll take your leadership audit and I take your human design blueprint and really bring that together in a way where you can start learning right from that audit call a little bit more about your design and about yourself. Um, and then, you get to experience it in that call and make a decision of if you want to learn more, if you want coaching through that, if you just want your blueprint. Like, it's a free call. I love this. Absolutely love it. It's always been in my internal wisdom, my intrinsic wisdom. I keep using the name of my business, right? Because it's been so natural for me. And I'm just thrilled that I now know human design and I've been studying it. So I love sharing it and I love working with people.
Well, that's very generous, and I do hope listeners take advantage of this generous offer to learn a human design because it's so eye-opening. It's amazing just to learn what your own design is. You don't have to do a big giant thing, just in your own design.
Right.
A couple little things about you, a couple little things about how you can show up as a more aligned leader. So thank you for offering that to our listeners. I appreciate that very much. So. Awesome. Okay, so that's our show. And I am Linda Bucher, guiding people to know their worth, to reconnect with their gifts, and to create lives that are fully aligned and deeply impactful. So if you're sensing it's time to bring your life into deeper alignment, you can explore what that looks like at lindabucher.com. You'll find a lot of direction, a lot of clarity there. And also you can get on a free call with me too. We're here in service of the world. As
Mhm.
projectors and yeah, so that's a beautiful thing. Okay, and if today's episode sparked something for you, please share it with someone who might need it, and then subscribe so that you don't miss what's next. And join me next week for another expansive, uplifting conversation designed to support your growth. And then until next time, make sure that you've made this conversation worth your while by fueling the spark that it ignited.